What's up? Welcome to I Am David Long Friends and Fans Group's bi-weekly community meeting, the first of many to come, where we will have conversations with each other about what is going on in our group and how we can connect better. Today with us, I got a few people from the group hanging out, and we are going to briefly discuss what's going on in the group and what kind of ideas we have about leadership, and we're going to jump right into it. So the first thing I want to tell y'all listening is that when you're not talking, to remember to mute yourself, and when you want to talk, remember to unmute yourself. And also, it would be good if you want to take notes, because we're going to go in rounds, and so it might be good if you hear something that another person said and you don't want to lose track of that, to write it down. And then when it's your turn, again, you'll have a whole list of notes collected about, you thought about what other people said. Might be a helpful thing to do. I'm going to try and do it as well. So first things first.
Round one.
I'll go first. My name is David. I live in Fayetteville, Arkansas. We're gonna list our name, our location, what brings us to the group, and what kind of special skills we have. Oh, here comes Blake. So anyways, I'm gonna continue on for a moment until we see Blake join in. Hopefully he dropped out. So maybe he's gonna try to get back in a second or something. Okay, these things happen. I am David Long. I live in Fayetteville, Arkansas. What brings me to the group is that I started the group. What kind of special skills do I have? I have the skills of editing things and talking in front of the camera and knowing about integral theory. So I am going to pass it to the other version of me, and we'll go around in a circle. How are we doing? I'm also David Long, and this is just a silly joke. I'm actually going to pass it to Kai. My name is not really Bruce Alderman.
Hey, my name is Kai. I live in Fayetteville, currently just living right next to this guy. Special skills that I have: I'm an artist. I am a longtime photographer, learning video making, filmmaking, editing, do a little bit of music. I have been learning integral probably for the last 2 years, and that's kind of what brought me to the group, was meeting David Long, and he kind of showing me the map and kind of, helping me out with the distinctions and things like that. So yeah, that's what I'm kind of bringing here.
All right, Matthew, you want to go next?
Yeah, my name's Matthew. I live in Seoul, South Korea. I'm originally from South Africa, nearby Cape Town. How I found this group, I was looking on YouTube, a video about Frank Visser and integral, because I'd actually heard it in a talk or an interview that he gave before, but not your one, but another one. And then I saw your group on YouTube, and I started looking up some of your videos, and then started thinking about reflecting on integral, being maybe more critical of some of the ideas of integral skills. And I have some understanding of integral. I wouldn't say I'm super knowledgeable, but I know the basics. I've known about it for a long time. I don't know, sometimes I've been more into it and sometimes been less into it. The first book I found was A Brief History of Everything in my parents' house. To be honest, I'm not so much of a leader, actually, like my personality, and not to be too self-deprecating. I'm more of a follower, but I like to ask questions. I'm inquisitive, so that's a skill. And I think I'm pretty open-minded as well. I don't want to be even though I was a lot into integral before, but after seeing some of your videos, I was able to change my perspective. I don't know if it was just at the right timing or if I was out. But I am open-minded. If I saw, I'd like to try and be open-minded and be able to change my perspective. And so I think I'm a good listener as well.
Yeah, hi. So my name is Salsabil, but everybody calls me Sal, so I think it's easier this way. I live right now in the UAE, Dubai, but I'm originally Palestinian. Why or how I come to know about this group is because I was searching for spiral dynamics, and I met David's videos on YouTube, and I was trying to understand more about it, because I really wanted to understand how societies work and how we can resolve the conflicts between different types of societies, and particularly about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, because that's a big thing. I'm interested about knowing how to actually know more about how we can solve this from a higher stages in spiral dynamics, giving us more advanced type of solutions. So when I met David, I also learned about other things like the quadras and the lines and the level and all of these things were very interesting for me. Now I can learn other things as well. So yeah, that's it, I guess. Oh yeah, one thing I'm good at, probably I'm working in content writing, so that could be something, as well as I'm a project manager of a startup, so maybe that's something I'm good at too. I don't know. So yeah, that's the thing. And I also like to research and understand many things about different cultures and just really understand things around.
Thank you. Blake, you are perfectly in time for round one, where we're just doing,
My name is.
what's your name, what's your location, what brings you to the group, what kind of special skills do you have, type of thing. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Blake Abramowitz. It's interesting to me that Bruce Alderman and David Long are the same person with exactly the same face. I never knew.
He's taken over.
I'm like a yoga, meditation, acting, writing, music, LA person. Can't pick a beat, so I just do lots of different things. And I'm based in LA. I live in Marina Del Rey, and I got involved in this group through my friend Julian Walker. Basically, he became friends with David on Facebook, and I kind of got interested in what David was doing because Julian spoke highly of him. And so I started watching videos and stuff, which helped me to round out my understanding of integral theory. And I think of myself as an artist, and I'm interested in ideas. I'm interested in culture and in understanding history in a nuanced way. I've always been a big reader. I come from a literary family, artistic kind of family. So I grew up reading, fiction and poetry, and I was very steeped in lefty kind of politics from, I was reading Chomsky at 21, I was like into that kind of stuff for a long time, and now I'm alt-right. No, just kidding. But I've kind of moved maybe a little bit toward center-left in the way that I think about things in the last few years. I'm reading Steven Pinker, for example, which is just completely blowing my mind. And lately I've been working on a play that I wrote, which is completely like a passion project called The Arsonist of Venice. And it's like a gritty, full-length drama about a novelist who is planning to murder his father. It's the feel-good hit of the summer. I guess is that what you were looking for? Just a little bit about me?
That'll do it, brother. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Let's see. This is going to go up in the group later, and it'll be something that other people can watch and comment on. And I might even go live afterwards and say like what I thought about the meeting and things like that, just briefly. But basically the point of this meeting is to try and generate ideas about how to better the health and the development of this group and our community, and to open up a conversation and a dialogue and a way to like really give people in this group a way to engage on a deeper level and to process their tensions and to bring their ideas to the table. And I think we're all going to benefit from, basically doing a better job of bringing the community online and making space for more conversation and more things that are going on.
Round 2.
What ideas do you have about cultivating leadership or projects in our group, right? So I'm going to pass this around, but I'm going to, go first and set the example type of thing, give a little bit of an introduction into what I've been thinking about in terms of leadership in the group, because I really want to get people more involved. I want more people becoming leaders. I want more people hosting events of their own. For example, our buddy Blake, who's here, said that he would host some kind of weekly, I think, meditation group. I think that would be awesome. That's exactly the kind of thing that I've been hoping would happen, is that people would bring their unique skills and talents and the things that they're passionate about and help enhance this community and make it theirs as well. So I'd also like to see things like, book clubs. Maybe we could do like a movie night. Maybe we could do something like circling in the rooms. I know there's a couple people, Matthew mentioned this, that he would like to see some circling practices happen in the rooms. And I would love that as well. I hit up a couple people about it. I haven't heard back, but if somebody who's watching this now is interested in doing that, step up, hit me up. This is what we're trying to cultivate. Some people who want to do things and help build a community. So another thing that I would like to see more of is welcoming and outreach. So two things, like one, welcoming new people to the group. I always post when new people are added to the group. I would love to see something like a welcoming committee, like do a good job of asking these people questions like, hey, welcome to the group. We're so glad to have you. Check out our introduction videos and consider doing one yourself. Like, what kind of things do you do? Like, what kind of art do you do? Like, please share your stuff, like encouraging them to share, not just saying hi and welcome. And that's great. Big props to anybody who engages on those posts and welcomes people to the group, but let's do better. Let's get them plugged in. Let's make them feel really at home and welcomed here and engaged with, and like they're whatever their cool stuff that they're working on is interesting to us. And also, I'd like to see maybe something like outreach, like people looking for places where they can share my videos with people. That'd be great. Or like telling people who they think are sympathetic. Matthew said something earlier about feeling like he's not a leader. It made me think of this video I've seen before. It's called Leadership Lessons from Dancing Guy. Has anyone ever seen this video?
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut, and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd, and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers, because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is overglorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
And it's through this first follower taking the person seriously and dancing along with him that allows for this person to even be a leader, right? So it's like there's a type of leadership in supporting other leaders and like stepping up and taking responsibility for that. It's like if you see somebody doing good that you want to shine a light on, that in itself can be a form of like helpful leadership, taking responsibility and doing what you can. So it's nice to see like all the crowd of people end up like rushing and like it starts this big, huge dance movement all off this one guy, but it wasn't really about the one guy. It was about the people who went along with it, who made it a thing. One person alone can't do it. It's got to be a bunch of people working together that makes the thing happen. So we can support each other, and that's a type of leadership as well. So I would also like to see, like what Kai was talking about earlier, something like a community leadership group, where we practice integral governance together and come up with ideas for the group. We process our tensions and come up with actionable solutions on the other side of it. So it's just it's a good way to like potentially come up with good ideas for the group and to work on stuff together, but also to learn integral governance methods and stuff like that, and to get good at practicing that. That's some of the stuff that we really need to work on. I was just thinking how honored I am that Julian spoke highly of me. I really like that guy. I respect him. I wish he was here today. Yeah, that means a lot to me.
Yeah, he's a truly brilliant guy. But yeah, no, he definitely recommended your videos, and he was like, he wanted me to make my understanding of integral more sophisticated, and you were the person that he thought could help me with that. I mean, he was trying to get it through to me himself, but I think it was multiple fronts.
Nice. That's great. I want to really definitely figure out ways to get him more involved in this stuff. I know like some people in our community have over time, for good reason, sort of lost faith in some of our projects and some of the views of the community and even like people in the community. And I really hope that we can bring integrity back to Integral and make it really something that we can all be proud of. Let's see. I would also like to get some leadership groups for collaborative projects going. There are ways that I want to figure out certain projects and then find people who we can plug in to get to some of these projects who want to work on those projects and get those things going. Like I really want to get this Integral Hub webpage together. I'm having a hard time finding someone who can give me ideas about quotes, someone who can make it. I don't want to get too into the details of that now, but I want that Integral Hub website to come out with my Revolution book, so that way we give people a way to actively plug in. So I need to figure out how to get that going. I think it would be cool to get a like meta-analysis group together, like a group of a handful of people who watch Integral content and make meta content evaluating it. Like look at all of this content that is coming out on the Integral stage, like consistently. It would be great to get a bunch of people who are knowledgeable about these topics to make notes about them and then discuss them. And because there's not really, people just make these statements and maybe there's a little bit of comments on the back of them, but there's no real discussion around it. So we could help with some of that. That's a project. I'm also working on this thing called Integral News. I want there to be some kind of an integral approach to news, local, world news, and also integral news, like the things that are happening in our community, and some kind of a integral analysis on that stuff, some kind of meta commentary about that. So these are all kinds of things that I want to see get going. There's a lot of other cool projects too that I'm sure other people have ideas about. And this is a great chance for us to generate a bunch of ideas and put ideas on the table, and also a great chance for people to step up and help to get some of these projects going if they feel some kind of energy or resonance around them. I'm super busy. I have a giant stack of videos back here I'm trying to edit. You know what I mean? I would love to be able to do all of this, but also it's going to be better for the whole community to get more people in the community involved, especially in leadership roles. And there are so many intelligent and great people in our group. I mean, the problem is that they're all busy too, doing their awesome stuff. But, this is something that's valuable to all of us. And so I think when given the opportunity and the invitation, we'll see people step up into this stuff more and more. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it around, and we will collect more ideas. First of all, I'm going to pass it to Bruce Alderman. Bruce Alderman here, doing the Bruce Alderman thing. Yeah, I think that we need to get David Long a full-time featured show on the Integral stage. I'm just being silly anyways. I'm going to pass it to Kai.
I guess like my experience, I kind of want to like give my perspective when it comes to engaging in the group. I don't know if this is going to pertain to like leadership or not, but for me as like an artist, like I do have some like philosophy in my repertoire. I have the integral theory as well, but it can definitely be a little daunting sometimes to put stuff out there, because that this group is full of everybody from all these different ages, all these different backgrounds, and nuanced perspectives and things like that. And so it can be maybe like for me just a little daunting to want to post, because you're just like, I mean, is this right? Is this not right? Is this something that is actually interesting, or is it just interesting to me? So because of that, I feel like there's probably other members in the group that are probably more on the introspective side, the more observer side, than on this more kind of like stepping up, standing out, and like actually like holding their ground and producing some kind of a narrative around the content that they're putting out, like what you do, David. And so I feel like there needs to be, I mean, I know that you encourage everybody to put their stuff out there. I just wonder if there is a better way that we can engage people to share their perspective, share their insight, share what they got going on. And like if we were able to make some kind of like a community show of some sort that we can like not just spotlight one person and be like, all eyes on them, but like, yeah, we're spotlighting a bunch of other people as well, to try and, because it's hard to know who's out there and how to engage with this kind of a diverse audience. I mean, I know we're talking to integralists, so we're all kind of coming from the AQAL map and, processing information from that. But it still seems like if we really want to get some like real engagement happening, I don't know, some kind of a collaboration effort to like gather a bunch of content together and then be able to showcase it on some kind of a show of some sort would be maybe an idea. And it's hard to. I see a lot of engagement around like the philosophy of the stuff. I mean, that makes sense because this is a philosophical group. So, it definitely seems like that's going to be the main point of like what we're trying to communicate with. But I definitely think that there is, like, for me, I come from like a more visual aesthetic art background as like a photographer and a painter and, things like that. And so like, I don't have a lot of the terms down, but like for me, it's more visual. And so I don't know, like it would be really cool to see if we could get more people posting art and posting kind of more of the aesthetic and the more personal, the more like just experiential stuff than just straight philosophy all the time. Because when it's just philosophy all the time, it can, I feel like, get a little dry. It's just kind of the bones of the thing, but you kind of need these other factors along with what you're talking about, so we can kind of see what is an integral aesthetic, what is an integral work of art, how can we visualize the complexity that we can reach in these different styles and perspectives. Like I mean, definitely we have the philosophy down. Like everybody has such nuanced and such interesting perspectives, but I just see very little on the more visual side. And even on the music side, that would be really cool if we could hear more integralists and their music pursuits. I know that everybody's learning something along the way. Like, I mean, you got your stuff, David, but I want to see more visual arts and music arts being posted, so it's not just philosophy based, but we're also getting these other perspectives that can kind of flesh out the whole feel. I think as well, to promote engagement around a specific subject so that everybody can feel safe about what it is that we're talking about, I think that there should be a thread that is posted that is specifically only for the tensions that are happening in the world, so that we can have a meta conversation about this specific thing, like the coronavirus and the distinctions around why people are choosing not to wear masks, so why people are doing these things, why people are doing these things over here. Because like for me, getting news is, you're just getting random bits here and there from different sources on the internet, and everybody has, their own different opinions, and we can definitely kind of, nuance what's true, what's not true, to have like just a narrative that we can go back to in the group and just talk about specific current events that are going on. I feel like that would be a great place, just a hub for people to be able to jump in and engage, instead of making their own posts where they're like wondering about this thing. Or maybe you do like a week-long thing where it's like, all right, we're just going to be talking about this specific thing, and we're going to learn as much as we can about it, and then talk about the meta narrative and how we can all kind of come to the same idea about what's the best way to process these tensions, because that to me is more like be a good practice to understand how to process tensions later on in the future. I think that's it for me right now. I just had a couple notes, so I can pass it off.
Okay, Matthew, you want to tell us what you think?
Well, I appreciate that the metaphor that you were talking about the dancer, about like trying to come into yourself as a leader, and then that draws other people, and then becomes not about the leader, but about the whole group. When you were saying that, what popped in my mind, I was thinking about the movie Fight Club, where there's the protagonist in the movie. He's not actually a leader, and then suddenly this leader arrives into his life. But it's a spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie, but the leader is actually him. That guy is like, it's an alter ego. I'm not sure if you want to go down that route for your group, anarchist, like violent male psyche, but it was an interesting just metaphor that popped in my mind, like that he wants a leader, and then he manifests a part of himself that is the leader. So I guess it's basically, even if you are an introvert, everyone has some kind of leader inside themselves to some extent. So I resonated with what Kai said about it being a bit daunting. So that's like where I also feel like a bit more comfortable in situations like this, where it's a live video talking. It's a bit less daunting than posting things on the group. But I'm interested in maybe like Kai was saying as well, like around a specific topic. So he was mentioning news. A lot of for me, I like to watch related to American news. There's a YouTube channel called The Young Turks. It's pretty popular. They're quite progressive. So yeah, that's a news channel that I like to get news from. They're not necessarily integral, but since they're more progressive and green, but they do have some integral ideas, and it's interestingly presented. So, like, I would think that is an idea, like posting a video from that channel and then discussing that. And the other ideas that you mentioned, David, about a book club or a film club. I've always been interested in movies. I want to get even more interested into movies. So, like analyzing movies or books from an integral perspective. And the circling that you mentioned as well, David. I mean, I appreciate that you try. I know it's kind of difficult because for the first time, I think you need to find someone who's a facilitator. I mean, I guess I could try and do that as well. Maybe there's someone who's not specifically in this group, but person from another circling group. I know there are other Facebook circling groups that are not specifically integral, but just if one of those people would be willing to come into this group just to facilitate for a bit, and then once it got going, once people got more familiar with it, then people from this group would start to lead it more. I think that circling is an interesting practice because it's kind of like straddles the line between meditation, which is very subjective and just focused on one's own internal dialogue, and then circling is a kind of meditation, but it's intersubjective. So it's not necessarily like focused on pursuing a specific intellectual cognitive line of thought. It is also based around like feelings and intuition, but it's intersubjective. So, and then out of an intersubjective space could possibly develop more fruitful and clear intellectual discussion. Yeah, so I think it could be helpful for the group from like the emotional, spiritual side, and also the intellectual side, and also just the community building side, because it'll get people to see each other. And it's even also could even work on like shadow elements. That's what I haven't experienced it so much. I've just done it once, but the one time I did it was really impressed by it. So I haven't really engaged so much with people, other integral thinkers, like in person or online. But I've been to one integral meetup in Boulder, which was like they call it the Integral Living Room. That a few of them was hosted by Terry Patton and Diane Mitchell Hamilton, Jeff Salzman, and Ken Wilber. He appeared briefly, like to pop in, pop out, pop in, get some applause and pop up. But he did give an interesting talk that I enjoyed at the time. So, but that's connected to the community. Like that's something that I'm looking for as well. Like I know you said leadership, but I'm also just looking for like community. I guess the two are connected. Community needs leadership, and good leadership fosters good community. And in the community, we want more than one leader, and everyone is a leader at some point or another. So, and I that's something that, like, when I went to that in-person meetup, I did enjoy it. And at that time, I was more into integral. I wasn't thinking critically about it at all. And then, but your group, I found it like really I guess the integral life. They don't provide that kind of. They have that Facebook group. You mentioned you were critical about it, specifically recently about the Black Lives Matter movement or neo-Nazis popping up on it. But your group felt like a really refreshing integral community space. Yeah, I'm still trying to like exactly. I guess it's a bit more difficult. You're like walking the line between being pro-integral, but then also being critical of it at the same time. But it's a really refreshing community space. So I guess that relates to the disillusion that you mentioned. I guess actually. I wasn't disillusioned before I found your channel, but then finding your channel made me become more disillusioned of integral, but in a good way, to be not just blindly follow something, but be critical of it. So that's a question that I have as well. Like, why do you still call yourself an integralist when there's like a lot of that you don't agree with? I know that integral is not a sole property of Ken Wilber, so anyone can call themselves an integralist, but you have quite a few disagreements with his version. But so how do you walk that line between still calling yourself an integralist but not wanting to be completely associated with his movement, but still wanting to not throw the baby out with the bathwater and take the good from that movement, the valuable parts of that movement. But I think that the working around specific things, like I said, so like the book club or the film club or circling is a way that I would be interested in getting more engaged. And like also share what you also said about making it like the philosophy is good and important, but also adding in some personal things. But like this is what it's doing. This live calls obviously help facilitate that, which makes it a little bit less dry and builds community as well.
Respect, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for sharing all that. Blake, do you want to say some stuff?
Just to echo something that Kai said about the experiential piece, bringing more experiential content into the community, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. We want to talk about stuff, and concepts are great. I mean, like I love that kind of stuff. Like I can do that all day, some days. Uh, but yeah, so art and is what, I wanted to find my way to offering meditation. I teach meditation, and it would be cool to just like, yeah, just do like a weekly sit where, we could actually practice together and do, like a little discussion afterwards about, not about heady ideas, but about how your practice went, like experientially and troubleshooting technique and stuff like that. I really feel like my understanding of meditation, the way that I think about it, is integrally informed because the way that I unpack far out experiences is grounded, and it doesn't go to war with science, and it doesn't trespass on those other quadrants. So that seems like, yeah, like it would just make a lot of sense. I mean, just something that I do, and it could lead to, yeah, more discussions on the main page, and definitely a better, more of like a sense of real connection between people because it's more experiential, relational. I haven't done circling, so I was listening to Matthew was talking about circling. I've never done that, but the way that I've practiced meditation and the way that I've trained is kind of psychology informed, and so we've tended to do a lot of practice that is interpersonal. So, like we'll sit across from each other and track one another's emotional states. And sometimes there's like out loud noting and labeling of our own feeling states or of the other person's feeling states. And there's all these ways of doing metta practice or, the heart practices of Theravada Buddhism in relationship, like out loud or, making eye contact, those kinds of things. So that's harder to do online, but I don't know. Maybe there's a way that we could play with something like that too. But I'd be curious to learn more about circling. I don't know anything about it. It sounds kind of up my alley though. And I want to comment on something Matthew said. Why? I mean, David can answer this, but why are you still, why do you still identify with integral even though you're critical in certain ways of some of the main theorists? I mean, what came up for me there is like there are glaring contradictions in Ken Wilber's own presentation, and when you try to clarify them and tease them apart, you get all this wonderful stuff that he contributed. I mean, it's just awesome. Like what he did is just so awesome. The integration and the kind of reconciling different perspectives and the very idea that we need to take the best of every discipline and apply it in an integrated way, all of that stuff without the unsubstantiated, ungrounded, like non-evidence, like woo-woo stuff. It is integral. It is Ken Wilber, but it's just refined a bit. So I don't know. I guess I don't see. Yeah, I don't see a problem there. It reminds me of the psychoanalytic tradition. Each new generation of theorists sort of dropped away some of the weird outdated stuff in the previous generation. Like Freud just, he was great. He was brilliant. He was a trailblazer, but he just kind of like made a bunch of shit up that didn't really hold up to the light of scrutiny. And, the following generations just kind of, kept the little kernels, the little gems that stood up and left the rest. But they were still, in some sense, Freudians. They were still in that grand psychoanalytic tradition. So anyway, to me, it's like that. It's like we'll always owe a lot to Ken Wilber. Anyway, that just came up. And I guess I just kind of have an open question for myself and others about my artistic stuff. I mean, I've started writing articles for Medium that are mainly political. And so I guess I can share those on David Long and Friends and probably piss a lot of people off. But mainly I'm interested in, yeah, like, because it's integral, there's space for everything. It's an all paths philosophy. And so art is a path, and it's certainly an important one in development of self and culture. And so yeah, I'm going to keep developing this play that I've written, and we're going to put it on its feet. So I guess I'll just, keep sharing where we're at with it on the page. It definitely deals with themes that we're all familiar with here. Early psychological trauma and the way that plays out across adulthood and informs relationships in myriad ways. Different kinds of trauma and loss and the way that it's sort of politically incorrect to say so, but that they lead, in a sense, to similar outcomes, whether it's political, sociocultural trauma or just having had a mentally ill parent. It's not identical, it's not the same, but it's suffering, in a sense, is suffering. And the experience of being oppressed by someone or ground down by someone, whether it's a state or an out of control parent, there are commonalities there. It doesn't really get into the spiritual stuff that much, but I think it is a spiritual act to try to look directly at suffering and really try to break it down and see it honestly and bravely. So, it's not, the play is not about meditation or anything like that. It's kind of in the tradition of, I flatter myself to say David Mamet or Arthur Miller, my favorite guys, Eugene O'Neill, Sam Shepard. But I don't think that makes it less integral. That's the thing about integral. It's inclusive. It's a diverse set of ideas. So I think that's about all I had. Yeah, art as a way of doing integral. I mean, I think that's, for me, that really resonates. So I'm with Kai on that. All right, I'll hush.
Thank you so much, brother. Salsabil?
So I'm just gonna try to make this quick. I think I'm a more practical person. Like I care about, how to do things more practically. So going back to the point of this meeting, which is leadership, doing real things on ground and like start producing content, start producing things that will let people know more about what we're doing and our thoughts and the integral philosophy more. So the main things I want to say is that as leaders, we need to, first of all, focus on building a proper ground, like for these people to step in and know that they can do something. So I think we need to work more on management, on like how to manage these people that we have in the community. Because yes, we have a lot of people who are talented, who are more knowledgeable, who already do things that could be considered integral, but everybody has his own plan. Everybody not working together because there's no clear path this group is going on. And I think, as you started, David, talking about having a movement, I think this first guy who like started to dance, like set the first example, and I think this is what we need here. I think you are an example, but maybe you have to create more clear way that an outlet that people can join and know how to participate exactly. Because okay, it's nice to share ideas, it's nice to share discussions and philosophical things, it's nice to share artistic things, but if it's all about sharing, then we're not actually building anything on top of each other. Everybody's like building somewhere separate from the other one. And I really care about starting this movement in a very practical way. So I think the contribution I can do is I will try to like create a list and I will gather information about everybody in the community. I will ask them about their background, what skills they can contribute, or like what skills they think they're good at, their level of knowledge, also as well like questions to estimate where they are developmentally. And we can like gather this in a database, and whenever we have a project, we can select the best people that we think could be leaders for this particular project or that particular project. And I think a way that will let people know what they are about to do. Because if you leave like thinking, everybody is going to think in a different way. We need to create this project and then let them know that they can join and do this and that, okay? So the first thing I want to do, as I said, is like I would like to gather information about everybody in the community, really get to know everybody in the community and how resourceful they are and how they can help us in a good way to promote for this and to produce content and videos and other things, how they can contribute exactly. And yeah, I think that's the thing I want to do. And maybe we can create another Facebook group that is just about the projects that we want to do and the people who are actually ready to put the work in. Of course, like everybody not going to be free, but going just to put this as something on the group. If somebody has like an idea of a project, if somebody has the motivation and the desire to participate as a leader, they can just go sign in, and so we can like understand really if we have enough people to actually start these projects or not, as well as they can share their ideas about their project as well. So the main thing I'm trying to say is everybody has really great ideas. Everybody has great projects, but we need to understand the big picture and to see how these different projects are going to fit in this big picture and some team to manage that. Yeah, I think the main problem we have now is that, as I said before, everybody is just sharing, doing things. They're not reducing things. And I think a lot of people are able to reduce things. And yeah, we just need to get to know them better. So yeah, that's the thing I think I can help with, basically.
Thank you so much, Sal. This is why it's exciting to do these community conversations and talks, because different people come from different perspectives and have different skills and different emphases.
Emphases. emphases.
And some people can talk better than others, and everybody's got their thing that they bring to the table. We have artists and thinkers and organizers and people. Everyone can do their own thing.
Round 3.
So now we're going to have a reflection round where we share what we thought about the things when they were coming up, right? So I'm going to start this out, and I'm going to tell you what I thought about all the things that you guys just said. And then we'll do like a questions and comments round, and we'll wrap it up. So let's see. There was this idea that was brought up about feeling insecure or uncomfortable about commenting or posting in the group because there's so many other smart people, and we're afraid of maybe getting it wrong or seeming like, it's intimidating. But I think what we need to definitely cultivate as a community is respect for people who are willing to learn in public. And this type of boldness and humility at the same time, right? So where we have the boldness to engage, but we engage with humility, knowing what we know, knowing what we don't know, knowing our strengths and weaknesses, knowing the areas in which we can speak with confidence and the areas in which we still might have things to learn, and own that. And the more that we do that, the more that we own where we're at, own our level of security around particular topics, the more comfortable I think we can be in the process, and there are going to be people in this group who are just learning about integral. Some people, when they join the group, I ask them, are you integrally informed, in like the original like join questions, and they go, I hope so. Probably no, right? if you put I hope so, I don't know.
Keep listening to Ken Wilbur.
So, everybody is at a point that's probably doing better than someone else in the group. So we should feel proud of ourselves for being in this group with these awesome people, because we are peers. And we should also give ourselves a little bit of a break and set an example, lead by example, by being willing to learn in public. Earn respect and help cultivate this community by being willing to learn in public and own your shit. Like, honestly, like every relationship I've been in, the thing that earns respect with my significant other or my spouse or whatever is when you're willing to be honest about your shit. When you get it wrong, to be like, I was wrong, I admit it. To admit that you were wrong is to acknowledge that you're wiser now than you were before. So we have to praise people when they're learning in public, and we need to create an atmosphere of learning in public. And part of that is by demonstrating the way as leaders and being willing to step out and engage. And honestly, really all we're talking about here is engagement as leadership. And this isn't something that you have to be the kind of person who can think of projects to do. All it is like you have to get involved in things and conquer that fear and put yourself out there anyways, and demonstrate the way and encourage others to do the same, and to help cultivate that environment where we can learn together. So that's something I wanted to say about that. Kai mentioned the spotlight show, where we shine light on different people in our community. Not everybody is doing something like art or music. And I think this is kind of what the integral stage is actually trying to do, trying to find more ways to bring more integral voices online. A lot of these voices aren't as integral as we would maybe want them to be, but that's the idea, right? So maybe we could do something like this. Like I have that Integral Emergentist Revolutionary Movement YouTube page, and I have invited several leaders in our community to contribute content to this page. But maybe I need me or someone else who could potentially run it and organize this stuff, could cultivate content in the same way that Bruce Alderman cultivates content, where he's like, we're talking about this. Do you want to contribute content to it? Or like, we're going to have a series of interviews about this. Do you want to be interviewed? So like, maybe someone needs to step up and generate some of this content. We need someone maybe to organize that. I've tried to do things like this, like get in touch with some of the artistic and aesthetic people in the group by doing the meme review. That stuff is super fun. And I'll probably do more of those, especially when I get a little bit more caught up. I really like that. When I was here in Kai Talk, I had this idea of potentially like a integral music compilation or something like that. Like you make a series or a mixtape or something like that, and you try to collect a bunch of songs from different integralists and you put them together on a CD. I don't know. That could even be potentially a way to make some money. Could we make money? Is this thing? Music, money? I don't
What
know.
a concept. Lower right quadrant.
Kai had this idea about having posts about certain topics or current events. So I think somebody could actually take on the leadership role of starting conversations. Like, for example, somebody could be like, once a week, I am going to post a question about a topic in the group to generate conversations around this topic. Like Kai was saying, like it could be legit somebody's leadership role to ask something in the group, like, what do we all think about COVID-19, or the way that people are talking about freedom and masks, or what are we, like something like this, just generating discussions. That could be another thing. Like Sal mentioned the idea of, and I'm kind of jumping ahead, but clear ways to get involved. I think that's really important, actually. I think she's dead on with that kind of stuff. We need more clear ways for people to get involved, both in terms of the we space and in terms of the projects and the movements that we're starting to get going, right? So I think there's been a little bit of talk about both, right? Sal was definitely speaking a lot about organization and optimization, like getting in some kind of a better understanding of just how many people and how much skill and potential and stuff we actually have going on in this group, and how we can maybe best utilize it and get people involved and plug people in. I think that can apply to both we space stuff and the movement stuff. But yeah, I think we definitely need to come up with better ways to get people plugged in to both, to get them plugged into the community, plugged in conversations, plugged in terms of sharing their art or their writing or their skills or whatever, and plugged into projects that actually produce things in the world of value. So that way Integral isn't just people endlessly talking in circles forever, but we can actually birth this Integral movement and have something that we can all be really proud of. It starts off with these small things, being able to optimize our local little tiny group. If we can get good at that, then we can take it to the next level, But if we can't even organize our own little group, if we can't even get people in our own little group plugged in and organized and involved, then yeah, how can we take it to the next level? So this is something I really care about, and I'm really glad to have project management type thinkers like Sal involved, who can come up with creative ways to get this data and information, and then figure out how to use that on the other side to organize things. That is going to be super helpful. I like that idea a lot. So let's see, personal things. I think more personal things are good. That's why, yeah, again, that's why we're doing these community conversations. I think we need more face-to-face stuff. We need more book clubs. We need more movie conversations. The reason to create all this meta content is to build relationships and to allow people to have a voice in a public space and in a public forum, and then start to be seen more as a respected leader on the back of that. Like if we have people who are doing this meta analysis content where we watch stuff from the Integral stage and take notes and then talk about it, we make a bunch of content about this. People who are in this group and contribute to that stuff are going to be more and more trusted voices in our community. So this is on the back of starting this group and bringing people together. I want to also be able to empower more people to become leaders, and for us to be able to build something bigger together. That's really important. I also could use help editing. So there are other projects too, like on the back of this organization and optimization database. I think it could also be good to give people clear ways to get involved with projects, maybe where we have a page that people can go to and see a list of our current projects and roles and things that need to still be done. And there's like a way for people to constantly know, a resource for people constantly to know what's in the works and figure out how they might be able to get involved. Yeah, I think this is important. Clear ways to get involved. I'll speak very briefly about why do I still call myself an integralist, and then I will pass it to Bruce Alderman. Yeah, I'm gonna do it every time. Why do I call myself an integralist? Well, because basically I think Wilbur does, like Blake said, he contributes a lot. He birthed this thing, and it is very much like the Freud type of situation where he's the first voice on the topic. And it's not that I think, Wilbur gets stuff wrong, and so Integral is just wrong. No, I think Wilbur breaks his own rules and betrays his project and has a particular bias that skews his integration. In some places, he actually makes the correct distinctions, but he doesn't apply those distinctions across the board in a fair and skillful way. So, like I'm, AQAL, all quadrants, all levels, all lines, all states, all types, as a holistic perspective. Yeah. I'm an integralist. And so, my project is Integral 2.0. This is a cognitive operating system, right? And there's going to be future upgrades to this cognitive operating system. And it's good to think of it like that. And so pretty soon, I'm also going to come out with a more explicit statement about what Integral 2.0 is, what the differences between our version of Integral and the old version of Integral. I have something like this on my Integral Emergentist Revolutionary Movement group. There's a basic list, but I'm going to add a couple more things to them. Basically, the couple things I'm going to add is anti-racism on the back of some of this stuff that we've seen in the Integral community lately. Some things you would think would go without saying, but I guess not. So we'll add that, and we'll also add something about attempts at more clear communication in terms of outreach. And okay, so Bruce Alderman, what do you think?
I agree with David. I think this guy really knows what he's talking about, and basically, everything he says is what we should do. And these other people in this group are really smart too, so it's good that they're here. But yeah, Integral 2.0. I fully endorse it. It's going to be a new thing on the Integral stage. Every week, we're going to have a philosopher from the Integral 2.0 movement come and speak about emergentism and why aliens are not an important thing to talk about. All right, let me pass it to Kai.
That was great.
It was a devastating editorial.
Yeah. Yeah, David Long, he is a fantastic, one-man group over here, hitting all the points. I'm look, I'm going down my notes here. I'm like, okay, he hit that and he hit this. But the one thing that really sticks out to me is I love the contrast between some of the more personal experiential stuff that I was talking about, that Blake was talking about, and then seeing the contrast with the more organizational and focus driven process towards gathering data and all that, and just kind of seeing the distinction and how we need this experiential side so that we can just get to know each other and trust each other and yeah, just really feel like we're working together, because when you have these vast distances, we're working with these multiple cultures and completely different distinctions, and we're trying to come together with the AQAL map and trying to have some sort of connection there. It's hard to know what are the motivations of certain members, what are this and that, but if we can actually get to know each other, we can kind of feel more like we can work together on something like this, where we'll want to work on these larger projects together, because we're these people are my friends, these people I respect, and this is why I'm a part of this group, is because when I'm out in the world or when I'm with other groups on Facebook, it's just I can't say certain things, I can't make certain distinctions, because it'll be taken the completely wrong direction. And I feel like that's probably one reason why a lot of people do have reservations, maybe even new members, about posting and sharing and things like that. Is I know I definitely feel it, this sense of not feeling heard or seen by my peers in real life, and not really feeling like that's going to happen in this group. But I mean, and that's and it's just this practiced response, that's not necessarily true. That's just something that's conditioned, because it's just every single day, you have to hold down and just be well, okay, yeah, I guess I can agree with some things you're saying, but there's more nuance than that. But if I go into that, then there's potential issues, especially in this politically polarized time that we're in. But I really loved what Sal was saying about her passion for you guys have your nice little experiential time over there, but like we got to get to work. Like we got, if we're actually going to make progress, we got to like actually apply ourselves in a systematic way and gather data, understand who's good at what, and be able to make this meta like perspective of the various skills and people, and okay, how can we bring these specific skill sets together into this small batch team so we can achieve this one small little goal that's going to help this larger project. And so then we can take whatever it is we're doing to the next level. And I think that's even one of like the integral like group dynamics is small groups that are highly specialized for very specialized tasks. And then once you're done, you disband. You're done. Like you're not doing this job now for like the group for the next 10 years or something. It's like we needed this specific thing done. We got it done, and then we're moving on. So it was very nice to hear like the passion there, Sal. It is really important. And as far as that, I think that's all I have to say about that. David, again, you hit on so many of the topics, and I agree with a lot of things that you're saying. I think that having like with what Matthew was talking about, a circling group, I mean, if we can somehow figure out how we can do it online, that would be really cool just for building that authentic relating with each other. And just getting to know each other, because I think it is important that we're able to share some of our more personal sides, because we are all human beings here, and we all got to this place because we do share in this collective suffering, and just kind of seeing the terribleness that the world is currently in. And it would be nice to be able to have a place that we can offload the burden of these feelings. I know I definitely can get moody and can really feel the weight of the world on me, and it doesn't really go away. You're always reminded of it, and it's just, I'm just constantly packing away, like, oh, this is absolutely terrible. Let me just imagine all of like the suffering that happened because of this event, because people were incompetent and this or that, and just like push it down and repress it, so I don't, because I got to do things in my life. I can't always be with it. And so having a place where you can be seen, be heard, get some validation around the way that you're feeling. Like, I want to give like real respect to Blake, like that meditation that you did that I got to participate in, like because you're not coming from this more green kind of like, making claims about certain spiritual aspects and things like that, it really did feel highly grounded, and I was able to go into my own psyche and not like fight against like this, they're bringing up spirit and they're bringing up these unfounded claims, and now I'm like, okay, you've totally taken me out of the whole meditation experience. Like you were really able to keep me focused on the things that were arising inside of me. And I saw some like visions of my own like child inside that I was just like, I haven't seen this in a long time. And
cool.
Yeah, it was very nice. It really was. It gave me space to start to integrate that part of myself and really begin to accept it. And
Awesome,
so
man.
yeah, so things like that. It's just like, I think there are a lot of other people out there who do need these releases. They need a space where they can feel like they can open up and just vent off some of these frustrations that we just build up and build up and build up. So I think that's all I have to say right now.
Thank you, Kai. Matthew?
Yeah, I guess like Kai said, a lot of the stuff has been touched on already. But yeah, so thanks, Blake, and for your answer to my question. That makes sense, and David as well. Yeah, I guess it's like, maybe it's something that I don't want a super detailed answer, but it's just something that I'm grappling with at the moment as well, because I was like more super into Wilbur, and like, is what he said is gospel. I want to figure something out. What does Wilbur say? But then now it's like actually integrating what Wilbur said and like opposing points of view as well. And like what you said, it's what God said was about. He does have a good map, but then he violates that. I guess pre-trans fallacy was one that you talked about before, because I had a misunderstanding about that. I was actually taking like, I'm not actually even exactly sure what Wilbur's actual position on it is, because maybe he contradicts himself as well. But like I remember when you were talking about it, you did a reference, like there's a talk that he gave on cosmic consciousness where he says like take it as is and imagine this to be the case, which is your interpretation of it. Yeah, and then, but it seems like Wilber's also like another point uses that to like justify the woo or whatever. But I mean, I think your interpretation. I'm not sure if that's Wilber's original interpretation, but I mean that's always the original intention. But yeah, and that could be one way. Like yeah, that he violates his own math. So, but yeah, the answers, so your responses to answer the question, I guess it's like standing on the shoulders of giants, which is what Wilber himself did. I just guess because it's around the like this. Well, I guess it's like that in any movement, like you mentioned, like Freud as well. It's always maybe one person is a trailblazer, so there can be a cult of personality. But yeah, something that I'm still like on the one hand, I want to improve integral knowledge, but then and also be critical, like I mentioned before. And then yeah, I like what Sal said, like that, like cut through like unhealthy green, I guess, because I guess that can be a feature of unhealthy green, like the sludge of everyone is right without any disconcert. Where that's I guess something that seeps into the integral movement as well. And so like her approach seems to be like a healthy orange, but then using that and integrating that and using that within the integral framework. So I was thinking about like I was having a talk with this guy Hunter. He's not in this group now, and he was saying that he said something that stuck with me. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Everyone has ideas, but like, what are you actually doing? I mean, it's true that you want to have good ideas. I mean, if you're a Nazi, you don't want to implement those ideas, but so you need good ideas before you start implementing. But it's true there are a lot of ideas out there, but who's actually doing real world activity that's making transformational changes in the world? I think it's like that guy that you mentioned. I went back to him. I'd heard of him before when you mentioned him, David. Michael Dowd. He talks a lot about that. Like he's like he even says like I don't even want to be quibbling over like these like small metaphysical differences that people have. Like I want to get down about like real world issues, like solving real world issues like climate change and stuff. He's pretty pessimistic. Like I think he's talked about like post doom conversations that he's already like leaning towards like shit's pretty fucked up already. Like it's too late. Could be too late to solve it. But he was saying like when my granddaughter, like she's like 3 now, something like in 50 years time, she's not going to be asking me like what kind of like metaphysical, like what's kind of enlightened spiritual states did you achieve, or what kind of metaphysical distinctions did you make. She's going to be like asking like is there clean air and clean water, you know, and sustainable food supply. So I guess but like listening to people like that is also helpful, like to just get down to like that was what Rosal was talking about in a way, like what like practical changes. There's another guy in the integral movement. I know he's like super like part of actually the Ken Wilber integral movement, Terry Patton, but I find like he's I listen to him and Jeff Salzman and Terry Patton's got like a bit more of a different approach. He is also, I've heard him speak about, he comes from an activist background. So he's got a podcast called The State of Emergence. He's also talks a bit more like about like talking to other people like from outside the integral movement about climate change, whatever, and like practical issues. So he's an interesting guy as well. So yeah, yeah, I think that was like one more thing that Kai said about feeling like not being heard. I guess that's an important point. Like it's something that I heard a lot about integral people saying to like not this group, but like the more the global integral group. Like now you found your tribe, like you found your people and stuff. Now you fit in, which is an important point. But like I also think it at a certain point does get also off-putting, because then it becomes like too culty and like we're a tribe. So I guess one of the skills is like finding a tribe, but then you also got to be able to like function and integrate yourself into like ordinary society. So you can't always be like, I'm integral, I'm about these people and stuff, like, or always trying to be like slipping in integral, but you got to slip it in, but like sometimes like on the slide where you can integrate with them and have a conversation with people from different levels. I felt like sometimes actually that turned me off about the integral. So it's like the same as like a Christian or something, say I'm only happy when I go to church. Like when I walk outside the church, I just see sinners everywhere and stuff. But you got to be able to like interact in the real world. So sometimes that like turn me off, and for sometimes I stop like following their content, just listening to other content as well, like other people who are not specifically integral, but they also have valuable ideas. Yeah, but I guess every group is like that, like even progressives or conservatives, like progressives or say like I like to hang around progressive people. I don't like to talk to conservatives or whatever. Yeah, but and the one more thing about what Blake was saying, like I'm also interested in joining meditation groups or something, and things like the groups you described, the meditations that you were describing are like would be related to surfing in the way like intersubjective and also psychotherapeutic work as well as meditation. That's something I'll also be interested in joining if you do groups like that. Yeah, that's
Cool, cool. Before I forget, I wanted to respond to what Matt just said, like about going out into the world. Yeah, I think that's such a big thing. Being in the company of someone who is just completely uninformed, uninterested, undeveloped, and enjoying them, and feeling an empathetic connection with them. We share more in common than what separates us. We're human beings, etc. And that's, I think, a marker of maturity. Now, I'm not saying that I don't go out there and feel totally alienated and, like crazy in a certain group of people, and like I'm above it or anything like that. I think we all have probably moments like that, but the aspiration is, yes, to be able to meet people on their terms. There's something, there's something really beautiful about that. But the main thing I wanted to say, really the main thing, is just to give a major shout out to, I hope I'm going to say this right, Salsa Deal, aka Sal.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, good.
You can just call me Sal.
Sal, that's good. Like this kind of mind that you have is the perfect complement for, I think, the kinds of people who are generally drawn to this kind of stuff. So I just made a list of words that you brought to mind: administrative, and their corollaries in my approach to life: non-administrative, organizational, disorganized, bureaucratic, and I don't mean that in a negative way, revolutionary, just in terms of my personality, procedural, procedure, and I'm like aspirational, analytics, poetry, managerial, whimsical, planning, impulsive, details, ideas. And so this is like lower right. Did that make sense? My contrasting vocabulary words there.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, without that, nothing ever happens. People like me, I mean, if it weren't for people who can think in the way that you can clearly think, and for all I know, you're an artist too, I don't know. But people like me wouldn't even exist. We would just sort of, we wouldn't have anything to do. The structure piece, it's the lower right quadrant piece where I really suffer and lag, and I'm trying to get better at it, and like take care of business and all that kind of thing. But
Right there with you.
yeah,
We could all desperately use
We could all
a
use
Sal to come in and organize our life and keep us on track.
yeah, it's like as soon as you started talking, I was like, okay, wow, this could actually help. Something could really, So that's, yeah, I just thank you for that. And you said something that I'm not sure if this is exactly what you meant, but it sounded like you wanted to create a kind of like a survey almost, or like a database of people's strengths and weaknesses. And I'm not sure if you said this, but it's at least what came to mind, that you could do it based on the 4 quadrants model. Like, where do people excel? And everyone presumably can give a pretty honest report. Like, are you good interpersonally? Like, where do you shine? Like, so it could be a kind of like a database, like a
database / personal assessment.
Yeah, and then it could get, it's like, oh, well, so and so self-reports being really good at this, and we could use the 4 quadrants as a shorthand. Like I tend to be good with, I can drop in pretty well with people, even though sometimes I'm obnoxious.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah, that's actually great.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, that would be kind of interesting, because we all have this shorthand. We speak this language, And okay, let's see if there's anything else. I wrote the words follow through. Upper left, like that's where I live. That's where I would prefer just to stay until the second coming. Just doing art and meditating in my little room, and like maybe like a girl shows up every once in a while. But basically, that's that's it. That's
life.
not that's not how life is.
Right.
It's not how it works. So let's see. Okay, so on the practical side, I need to learn how to use rooms because I think that would be the better thing for me to offer this meditation because then it's interactive, and I have a terror of tech, so I need to push through that and just learn it. I know I can do it. I'm smart. I always just get like, oh, how am I going to figure that out?
Later tomorrow, if you want, or something like that, pretty soon, you and I could just like start a room and invite people to come in, and we could just hang out for a minute and have an open conversation, and then you'll be comfortable with rooms, and we get to hang out in the community. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's do it. I think that's all I got.
Awesome. Sal, do you want to say some stuff?
Yeah, I would like to say some stuff. First of all, I would like to say I really also need somebody to work on my artistic, expressive kind of thing, because I know like we think we're like integral, but sometimes it's more like we understand it, but when it comes to applying it, it's really, we lean to one quadra or like two quadra, and we just not really do good in other ones. So I would like to join you, Blake, next time you do this meditation and all this stuff. Yeah, I would like to try that.
Awesome. Love it.
I also think that, I want to, like, as Kai said, and also Blake, I would like to see more artistic things as well. Like, I'm not like against it or something. It's just that I think everybody in the group has like his own talent or like strength, his own focus. So like if you focus on these things, I think like I should focus on these other things that like nobody else is focusing about. So yeah, that's the thing. I like to see like balance, like everybody just doing their own thing. And I think everything is like important. Like everybody should like contribute in what they can. As well as what Matthew said, like I think it would be great if we can share and our personal things and stories. And I think it's especially important because a lot of the members that come already have like this feeling of being alienated and lonely and misunderstood. And I think it's particularly important to make everyone welcomed and feeling like they are understood and they don't need to hide things and be reserved. As Guy like felt like it's like I have to think twice before I post anything or something. Yeah, sometimes it's not because you feel like other people are smarter than you, but sometimes it's because you think maybe they will just not get me like everybody else or something like that. So you just stop that process. Yeah, I think a good idea that David shared is that we have to have a welcoming community, a welcoming committee to the new members, as well as if we're going to have these community meetings every time, I think it's going to be great if we can dedicate like a few minutes to welcome every new joiner for our community. So a lot of, sometimes people wouldn't join the next or the third meeting because they think that it's not like nobody will hear me or something. So I think, yeah, if like David can focus on that next time or something. Yeah, and what Matthew and said about what I see in the integral groups, they lean towards like having this green attitude of sharing, and like everybody's sharing and discussing things endlessly. But please do something with that. Like try to do something with that because we got it all. Like I'm talking to one of the most brilliant people I have ever met, and at least virtually. And so why we're not doing anything with that? I mean, that's a thing that I want to see more of. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Sal. Who are you talking about?
I think all of you are brilliant.
Oh, all of us are the brilliant people.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I have bad grammar, please excuse me. English is not my first language.
Where are you from?
I'm actually from Palestine. My language is Arabic. So yeah.
And currently she's living in Dubai, right?
Yeah, I'm living in Dubai. Yeah.
Right. You're speaking to us from Dubai right now?
Yeah. Right from the Middle East.
How cool is this? Like, there are people from all over the globe in this group. It's so amazing. It's
like
amazing
Matthew
to be
from
part of it.
Korea, and that, like he's from South Africa, I guess, but he's like living there, so it's really nice experience. You know, meet people
I
from
grew up
everywhere.
in Israel partly. In the 80s, I lived in Israel when I was a kid, so I'm familiar with that part of the world.
Yeah, yeah. I'm also
And
from, like, I was in Palestine, particular in Gaza. Yeah.
wow, yeah, that's an intense place to be.
Yeah, that's why I had to leave. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
She's very, very lucky to have been able to get out of there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you guys, Matt and Kai? I'm just curious, what part of the world are you in?
I'm in Arkansas. Actually,
Okay.
me and David are actually we have a place together. So.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, cool. No, I didn't get that. He's gonna.
You don't too often see this in the Zoom meetings, do you?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I feel like I'm
breaking of the fourth wall.
Yeah.
You just broke the fourth wall, dude.
Yeah, he needs to be in every screen now.
You know, I'm taking over all the screens. Before you know it, Blake, Matthew, Sal, I'm coming for your screen.
Where are you, Matthew?
I'm in Korea. Yeah, I'm from South Africa originally, but I live in Korea now.
You're in South Africa, but you live in Korea?
No, I live in Korea. I'm from South Africa.
Oh, got it. But right now you're in Korea.
Right.
Wow, amazing. Sorry, I just wanted to get a sense of where people were at.
Oh, that's great. So I think we're on our final round. Is that right? Everybody just spoke. Sal, you were done, right? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I'm done. We are in our final round.
Round 4.
Okay, what's happening? Where are we? I changed squares and I totally lost all orientation. Okay, so final round is going to be just another kind of questions and comments kind of round. Like Blake actually started this out pretty well. So if we all have like some final thoughts or some questions for each other, this is going to be like our last round to kind of go back through and just quickly touch base and give our final thoughts. And if we have any questions for each other or want to dig in deeper, now's a good time to do that. Yeah, I really like the idea of a welcoming committee. And, you know, I think we all have talked about here how as integralists, it can be so easy to feel misunderstood and not seen in general, and how our integral community is supposed to feel like a homecoming. It's supposed to be like a place where we all feel welcome and engaged. And this is why when new people join the group, I would love there to be a group of people who make them realize that this group is not like other Facebook groups, that we actually want to know you personally. We want to include you in the community and to include you in a deeper way, you know. Matthew mentioned this idea about finding a tribe and, you know, how it can feel cult-like sometimes and how there can be problems with that. And Blake mentioned a bunch of paradoxical syntheses between these different extremes. And he listed a bunch of them, and they were all different attributes, different paradoxical attributes that different integralists bring to the table. And I mentioned earlier in our communications being bold yet humble. And I think when it comes to our tribe and feeling comfortable in this tribe and feeling like it's a tribe that is about learning and upgrading together and engaging with each other, that there's this paradoxical synthesis between support and criticism, right? Where we're able to support each other, but also engage with each other's progress in a way that is helpful from the inside, and where we can learn in public and make a virtue of the ways that we're able to be honest and cultivate this kind of community together. But this is the only integral group I've seen that actually has real personal interactions where we know each other personally, a lot of us. And I want to push into that more. This is the only integral group I know of that is actively cultivating leadership amongst its members and encouraging them into the values and virtues of what integral leadership might be. Even as a supportive type of leader, what it means to be a responsible group member and to take leadership in that kind of way, right? So this is the only integral group that is really trying to start a movement and get shit done. So, I mean, we have a lot of good things going for us. I think that's great. I think it's very exciting. You know, a lot of this stuff has been very slow building, and it's hard to bring integralists together. We're all very busy. It can be very much like herding cats. It's very difficult. And so thankfully we have people like Sal who are involved, who are going to help us organize and optimize this thing. And there are going to be other leaders who are step up, and we're going to figure out how to not just bring people together, but bring people together and get them involved together in building something bigger than what any of us can do alone. And so that's gonna be a difficult task, you know, but we're gonna figure it out. And I'm so excited to be working with all of you wonderful and beautiful people on these things. That's kind of my, I guess, one of my final statement on this thing. And I don't really have any questions for anybody in particular. I'm excited to see Blake posting in the group about when his meditation thing is going to be, and you know, we'll be coming at you with that stuff soon. I'm excited to see Sal posting something in the group about this database, and that's super exciting. And for those of you who are watching this later on in the group, know that we're going to be holding this space. This is going to be a bi-weekly meeting, and you are invited to the next one. We want to hear what you have to say. We want to integrate your ideas. Your voice is not just welcomed, but probably desperately needed. You probably have great ideas to bring to the table and ways that you can plug in. And I fully invite everyone to get more involved, even if it's like in a small way. Figure out your level of engagement that you can do, and you know, bring your skills to the table, bring your perspective to the table. Help us flesh out this community and make it healthy and help it grow. Share videos. Tell people about what we got going here if you think that they would appreciate it and vibe with it. There's a lot of different things that you can do. Don't think that you need to, you know, step up and be the center of attention to be the leader. That's not necessarily the case. There's lots of ways that you can support and help with, you know, leadership projects without necessarily, you know, being the center of attention, and you can bring things that are your unique goals and skills to the table. Okay, so
wait, there's more to leadership than being the center of attention?
Believe it or not, yeah, it can be true. It's true. Yeah, sometimes actually the best thing you can do as a leader is to support another leader, because
Totally.
we can't all be the one all the time. Sometimes, you know, we need to come together and support other people. I mean, like, honestly, you know, there are several good leaders in the integral community, and at least very sincere leaders. And even if I don't fully agree with them all the way, like, there are people who are doing good things, and I want to be supportive of them, and we need that. And it's, yeah, like, it can't always be about me. Like, I've done a lot of background work for the integral stage. I've done lots of editing for them. I've like helped them like organize their front page a little bit. Like, I do that for the community, you know, as a way to serve them and to bring the things that I've learned about to the table to help them, because we're in this stuff together. They're helping the integral movement, and they're in the ways that they feel is best, and I want to support that. You know, we might have our areas of disagreements about things, or like our ways of you know, favoring different emphasis on particular subjects or something like that. But at the end of the day, you know, we gotta support each other, and that means even people who might normally be the center of attention sometimes taking a service role when someone else is the leader of attention. You're, you know, the leader who's at the center of attention.
Totally. I think I better jump off here in the next couple of minutes because I'm supposed to call my dad.
Why don't you close it down, brother? Do you have any kind of final questions or comments or thoughts or anything?
I guess I wanted to respond to something Kai said, which, like, I felt a little bit bad about my response, which is probably unnecessary because I tend to fall on the paranoid side. But like,
I do the same thing.
Yeah, I hear you. Like, I think, you know, you were talking about seeing and being seen, feeling heard, feeling, you know, feeling a sense of alienation, that when you think in a nuanced and sophisticated way, and then you try to put your 2 cents into a conversation and people can't tolerate it, you know, it sucks. It feels bad, and I didn't want to diminish that at all. I think we have a responsibility to ourselves to get ourselves into relational dynamics where we feel seen, where we feel mirrored and heard. And if there was a deficit of that in our early life, then all the more important to make sure that we try to cultivate truly reciprocal relationships. So I'm like a really big proponent of that, and I didn't mean what I said about, well, we should just be, we should learn how to love people on their own terms, even if they're totally blind, to diminish that point at all. I mean, I think both things can be true. So
Yeah, no, I felt that, and when you were bringing it up, I was reflecting on my own comments, and it was actually nice to hear.
yeah,
Like, I know that it
cool.
wasn't like nefarious in any kind of way.
Good.
No.
And one of the things that comes up for me here and in most of my life now is that most of the people that I encounter, because I move in progressive circles, flank me on the left. And I'm on the left on most social questions, like 95%. Just economics is confusing to me. There's so much there. But so that's the one thing where I don't even really know anymore. The more I learn about it, the more confused I get. But so that's been difficult for me because I feel like my worldview is actually becoming more sophisticated politically, not less. And yet, it's lost me friends and stuff like that. So it even comes up on this page, not in a bad way. It's just like, okay, wow, okay, I'm on a different track with that. But I don't need to go down a rabbit hole with that. That was just kind of something that came up for me around seeing and being seen, feeling heard. And yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I think just like main takeaway is that Salsabil is our savior, and like seriously,
I
like
second
that.
that.
I think you're
Yeah,
right.
I'll join that club.
And I'm excited to talk to you more later about the rooms, and that's a practical step that we can take. And anyone here, feel free to message me or reach out to me if you want to talk about anything.
Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for joining us. If you want to go ahead and bounce out.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you guys. I love you.
Thanks for hanging out. Love you too, man.
Nice to meet you, Matthew, Kai.
All right, let me pass it to Bruce Alderman real quick.
Okay. Yeah, basically, Sal is our savior. My final questions and comments are for Sal. What's the final answer, Sal? How
Can we all be better people?
Maybe get more organized. Just keep developing yourself. Develop all the parts that you're afraid to get. Yeah, just keep developing yourself and develop all the parts that you are afraid to develop or reach. Because I think that's where your weakness is, and this way you are more balancing everything, developing everything, and that's, I think, what makes a good person.
You heard it here first. Sal's letting us know the deep truths of the universe. Let me pass it to Kai now, and then we'll do Matthew, and we'll come back to Sal again to hear more for deep wisdom.
I think really the only thing I want to say is I don't know if you have a data collection program, Sal, but I know a good friend of mine works in that. They work in a kind of large electronics factory where they write standard operating procedures for running the entire company. They're always updating their standards because policy is changing and safety standards are changing based on each project. And so, he's adept at that very thing. And I know that with the program they have, we'd be able to, gather emails and be able to just send out like a mass, like basically a little template thing that they can fill out and, go down the bullet points, and it would be like super easy, and it would just put everything into one giant data just collection spot where we can just kind of know, what's what. And
yeah, I think that would be really good to look at.
Other
Can
than
do something like that.
Other than that, I feel like we've been hitting on, all the things I have notes for. Maybe even like, I know that the group is kind of centered around Facebook, but to maybe make it just a little bit more official, after, if we did do this data collection, if we did get emails, we could have a newsletter that we could just, keep people.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, it seems like just seems like a standard move for any movement or business or community or anything. I think that would be important, just because it would keep people on the pulse of what's happening in the movement. So it's not so much about like personal stuff. It's more about like news. It's more about like, all right, what are we going to be doing this month? Things like that. So, but that's pretty much all I really had. I've really enjoyed this talk. This has been highly informative, and it's been really nice.
Thanks for coming and contributing your good ideas.
Yeah.
Kai, I really appreciate you, and I think the newsletter idea is a great idea. I hope you're ready to volunteer to write that.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yeah, I know. Matthew, do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to say before we close it up? Any questions or anything?
Oh yeah, I want to second what Blake was saying as well, like to Kai, that I wasn't trying to downplay what you were saying about the things. It's something that I also experienced as well, like integral, like that feeling of like, wow, integral, like, wow, now everything makes sense, and like that we're the integral people out there. So, and then maybe like disillusionment as well, like, but I can't also completely blame the integral movement. Like I also maybe, it's also like it works two ways, like you've got to get engaged as well. But like David was saying, that this group does seem to be different to other groups where you can connect people on a personal level. Yeah, and it's more like open, and hopefully what you were saying as well, like it maintains that ability for people to be like critical. That's important for like transparency, like what you were saying about being bold humility. Yeah. But I had a question. I don't know if you can't answer it now. It's okay if there's a time restriction or it's not the place. But you mentioned, David, about like that they're not being racist, because I've been obviously following like the whole like Black Lives Matter movement, but I haven't been following so much like what the integral people have been saying about it. I've been following more like mainstream. I watched the documentary, The 13th. I recommend everyone check it out. Very good documentary about like the prison in America, imprisonment of Black people in America. But I've been just following like more progressive outlets, and like, I watched the Dave Chappelle thing as well. That was also pretty good. Dave Chappelle Netflix speak. Talk wasn't a stand-up, it was a talk. But so that was my question. Like I heard you said that like this moderating the group, I guess it was the integral level. They don't ban like overt racist Nazis or something. But or if there was, but I was also wondering like, is there anything like not just from the group, but like from the leaders that. But like I said, if you can't answer it now, but that's cool. But that was just something that was good. So, like,
yeah, I can briefly answer that for you real quick. Yeah, we just had a talk a couple days ago about racism in the integral community and some of the stuff that we've seen in some of the groups and the ways that leaders have dealt with it. And from what I've seen in terms of talking with people of color and people who have, who are actively discriminated against, I think that the best way to make them be able to feel at home in our community is to adopt an anti-racist stance and an anti-sexism stance, and to, I'll kick people out who explicitly advocate for a racism, because that stuff is not at all compatible with our philosophy. And honestly, I don't think that we need to continue to rehash well-established things that we should all know, like just in the same way that if like a fundamentalist religious person came into the group and was like telling people that they need to accept Jesus or they're going to burn in hell, I'm going to tell them, listen, this is not the group for you. You're not you're not on our same page. You don't belong here. Come back later when you're more mature. And I would say the same thing about racism. Like those ideas are super immature and they don't really have a place in our community. Like I said, I think these things should go without saying, but apparently they don't. So that's more of a response to some of the lack of standards and leadership that I've seen in other groups, and a responsibility to try to make those people know that these groups are for them, and that kind of stuff is not going to be tolerated. I want those people to feel comfortable in our groups and in our communities.
Yeah, the integral life, they have been putting out content. Like I said, I haven't watched it. It's something I'm going to get around to, like with watching. I mean, like what they're, not in terms of Facebook groups, but just like talks they've been putting out. I mean, but they do have some Black people talking about it.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say, Matthew?
No, I think so it's more just around the Facebook groups, not like specific statements that you've heard from actual.
Right, more like, yeah, what's tolerated in the Facebook groups and how we can, maintain.
I guess it's sorry.
No, go ahead.
They're not walking their talk, basically.
Right, and we want to try to maintain a healthy culture.
Yeah, people are saying things but then that's not being reflected in the actual working practically in the group.
Yeah, fortunately, I haven't seen too much stuff like that in my group. There was one person who asked kind of a trolling type question, but then they admitted later that they were just trying to upset people and they apologized to me. Luckily, I haven't actually had to kick anybody out for that. But I mean, if somebody was explicitly trying to make the point that certain people have a lower IQ or that they're less, or that certain people are superior, and that's their point explicitly, yeah, you're out. Do you have any other kind of final thoughts or anything before I pass it to Sal, Matthew?
Oh, no, that's cool.
Okay. Sal?
Yeah, I wanted to comment on what Kai shared with me. Yeah, I think a newsletter would be great. I also heard that David talked about a project of having a website. So I think that will be for that next thing. I mean, when that happens, I think that will make more sense. But yeah, everybody has to start from somewhere. So we're starting from Facebook. It has enough tools to start from. As long as, there's other things we can use. Some also free tools and stuff like that. So we can start from that, and then we can upgrade to other things. But that's a very awesome idea. Because I think a lot of people they're not on the loop. They don't know what's going on. It's not just like I want knowledge or something about the integral philosophy or what's going on or the content, but it's more about the news. Make them feel like, yeah, we are actually doing something. We are making projects. We're making things done. I think this will appeal more to those other people who are not really, I would say they seem like they're green, like the other groups. I think that will be something that is unique in our group, that we are actually putting some practical things as well as knowledge, like sharing knowledge. Yeah, and what Matthew said, I think the problem is sometimes these groups are open for everybody to join. Some people are just curious to know about integral philosophy though. So they're not really integral. They don't know the philosophy. They're not really developed. They think racism is great or something, or it's scientifically valid idea or whatever. So yeah, you just don't, you don't need to care that much. Of course, there should be some talk about that, some education, how an integral person would deal with these things. And why is that the right way or the best way to think about this and other topics as well? Yeah, that's all I want to say.
Thank you so much, Sal. Thank you so much, Blake. Thank you so much, Kai. Thank you so much, Matthew. I appreciate all of you coming and hanging out with me today and sharing your ideas and brainstorming and stepping up and being great leaders in this community. And I really, 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 really appreciate you. I don't know how I could let you know more, but yeah, definitely all of your guys.
Add another really on there.
Okay. I really, 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 okay. I appreciate you guys. You're the best. Thanks to everybody for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed our first bi-weekly community meeting, and I hope that you show up for the next one. I hope that if you're watching later, that you comment and you share your thoughts and ideas about the things that we've been talking about and get involved more. Thanks again, and peace.
My name is Bruce Alderman, and I endorse this message.